What up? What up? It is Alex, the fantasy football hustler, back at you for some week 6 starts and sits. We're breaking down every game, every position, every fantasy relevant player. So make sure you hit the like, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment if you have any start and sit questions, because I'm giving you blanket statements here of just who I would start and sit in a nutshell. So leave your specific questions in the chat. And if there is a specific matchup that you are looking for, look at the timestamps below and you can jump to any matchup that you like. Starting off with Thursday night football. We got the 49ers going up against the Seahawks. It is going to be, hopefully, it's a divisional game like we saw last week where there's a lot of high-powered scoring going down. Brock Purdy, single QB, maybe it's debatable. Superflex, you're starting them for sure. And even in a single QB, I'm leaning on starting him. The Seahawks have been pretty good, especially at home. And shout out real quick. Let's shout him out. Jordan Mason, you got to start him. I'm sure everybody's hurting at running back right now. So, yeah, got to start him. Seahawks giving up like the 12th or 13th most points to running back. So it's not a bad matchup at all. Ooh, man. Debo and Ayuk, though. It's annoying. Like every week trying to figure out, should you start both these guys? Should you sit them? I'm in this matchup. I'm leaning on starting both of them. I like Ayuk more than I like Debo. So if you're like making a choice on one or the other for whatever reason, and then I do not like Juwanna Jennings. No, I've been ever since Debo and Kittle came back. I just said, don't mess with them. Kittle, tight end sucks so much. Like if Kittle plays, you're starting him. I don't even think there's any kind of question like about that. And Seahawks, they've been bad for a few years against the tight end, and this year they're like, I think there's only one better tight end matchup than the Seahawks. So you're for sure playing Kittle, but Kittle was limited in practice, so we shall see. Make sure you guys pay attention and follow throughout the week. Now let's jump over to the home team, Seahawks side of things. Geno, I'm a little bit nervous about starting him, but Superflex League, of course, we're starting him. Single QB League, I'm still going to say lean on starting him. The 49ers, they're giving up around the 20. 49ers, they're giving them around the 8th most points to quarterbacks. And now they just keep getting injury after injury. So, yeah, I'm actually going to be starting Geno. Single QB, Superflex, either way, lock him in. Let's do it. Ken Walker, though. Feel like you got to start him, but it's a way tougher matchup for the running backs than it is for the wide receiver. It's a way tougher matchup for the running backs versus the quarterbacks. And Zach Charbonnet, like I'm just looking at even some of my teams and I legit may have to start him. And it all depends on your situation because I'm starting Charbonnet over a whole bunch of random RB2s like out there. So just some random guys that you'd be picking up. Not talking about your Trey Sermons or Tracy's or anything like that, just lower on the totem pole. Ken Walker, I'm starting him even in a bad matchup. It definitely sucks. Charbonnet would be a fringe guy for me. The wide receivers, it's tough, but I feel like we got to start all three of them. More often than not, 49ers are giving up decent points to the wide receivers. And it's not like you're going to be starting a tight end over here. Like I'm saying no to Noah Fant. But I feel like DK, JSN, and Tyler Lockett, they're all startable this week. Obviously, DK is the guy. You have DK. He's probably the wide receiver 1 or 2 on your team. JSN, Tyler Lockett, more. I'm going to say a little bit better than dart throw flex guys. They're like wide receiver 3s to me this week and solid flex plays. Next matchup on the week. This is going to be the London game. Oh, yeah. So make sure you guys get your lineup set early. This is your early public service reminder. 6:30 game a.m. if you're on the West Coast. 9:30 a.m. if you are on the East Coast. So set your lineups accordingly. Trevor Lawrence, super flex, you might have to play him. Single QB, I'm leaning on sitting him. Just like last week when I told you Andy Dalton was a sit versus the Bears because they're just locking down QBs and wide receivers. ETN and Tank Bigsby. If both of them play, because ETN, we still got to wait on news. I'm recording this early Wednesday morning, and we still don't even have any practice reports for ETN. If both of them play, I'm playing both. Bears, the only way that you can really move the ball on them is on the ground. Like they shut down quarterbacks, they shut down wide receivers. And that's why I really don't want to play Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr., or Gabe Davis. If I was going to play one of them, it would be Brian Thomas Jr. He won't be the one against their top cornerback. It's going to be all bad for Jacksonville. I do like ETN. I do like Bigsby. If Ingram plays, I would probably play him. I would play Strange if Ingram doesn't play. But it's tough to play a quarterback or a wide receiver against the Bears. They really shut them down. Look at what they did last week. So many people who are like, Deontay Johnson, let's go. Volume king. Don't matter when you're going up against a team like the Bears with their secondary. Now on the opposite side of things here, great matchups all around for the Bears players. Look at Caleb. I feel like, whoa, in a super flex, you're starting them for sure. In a single QB league, it's probably debatable if you're going to start him or not. But if you pick your quarterbacks based on matchups, this is like literally the best matchup that a quarterback can have versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm going to lean on Caleb as a starter and even in single QB leagues this week. For the running backs, you got to start Swift and Roschon. I know it's tough. You're not going to be playing both of them on the same team, but I'm just saying if you have Swift is going to be a solid like RB2 this week. The matchup is juicy. Jags giving up the third or fourth most points to running backs, and Roschon, he's been getting enough work in the red zone to where, yeah, he's a great flex option. And for the wide receivers, I'm definitely starting DJ. I want to score more. Oh, yeah. He's going to continue to be solid. Now, Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, I feel like in a matchup like this, you have to start them. We're talking about the Jaguars giving up the most points to quarterbacks, the most points to wide receivers out of everybody who's out there. They're just an amazing matchup. So we got to play those matchups. I don't want to force Allen or Odunze into the lineup. So it's not like I'm going to start them over some real solidified wide receivers. But if you're just talking wide receiver 2 or 3, one of your flexes, maybe you're talking 2 flexes, those guys would be consideration for me for the start next to almost anybody because of their matchups. Next game on the slates, we got the Tampa Bay Bucks going over to face those New Orleans Saints. And Baker Mayfield, it's going to be a tough matchup for him. Super flex, you're starting him. Single QB, I'm going to put him in as a starter as well. Their backfield, that's been the biggest issue out of everything. In the first 2 games of the season, it wasn't really that easy. But over the last 3 weeks, teams have actually been going off a little bit on the ground. I like Bucky Irving more than Rachaad White because of the goal line work that they've been giving Bucky Irving. So if I'm going to start either one, if I had both on my team, it'd probably be Bucky Irving. I think both are good enough to at least be flex plays or at least contention for your flex start this week because of the matchup. Now the wide receivers, though, the guys who've been really thriving. It sucks, man, because Mike Evans always gets shut down by Marshawn Lattimore. I know that there's been some people who are like, man, you told me to sit Mike Evans and he killed it. Marshawn Lattimore, man, you got to have some balls if you're going to play him. I'm lock and loaded Chris Godwin, like out of the slot. He should be fine. Mike Evans, I'm not going to start some bum over him or some random flex play like dart throw. I'm going to play Mike Evans over like guys like that. But if you're in an 8-man league or 10-man league, you probably got some decisions to make with whether you're going to start Mike Evans or not. But I'm leaning on starting him even in the bad matchup. K. Dotton, this would be the game to play him. Expect a lot of targets versus the Saints. And because Mike Evans is going to be in for this tough game against Marshawn Lattimore, that's another reason why we expect more targets at a K. Dot. So amongst the shitty tight end landscape, K. Dotton is a start for me this week. Now to the Saints side of things. We must address the elephant in the room. It is Derek Carr. They said he's expected to miss week 6 and week 7. Week 7, they play on Thursday night versus the Broncos, so it wasn't going to be a good game for him anyways. Now we got Mr. Jake Heener or Mr. Spencer Rattler. And you got to sit both. Don't even pick them up. Let someone else pick them up. Even in Superflex, not excited about it. 2 tough matchups in a row. Alvin Kamara, this sucks. Because when your QB starts sucking, then that means your run game starts sucking because you start stacking the box. And the thing that sucks about this game in general is the Bucs are already one of the toughest defenses against the running backs. So If you are super injured at running back and you got no options, of course you're starting Alvin Kamara, but I'm leaning on sitting him. But I know it's probably easier said than done to actually sit a guy like Kamara because of options that you do not have. It's not going to be Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. We got to sit him. Rashid Shaheed gets all of his money on the deep ball. I have no confidence in Hayner or Rattler being able to throw the deep ball. Chris Olave, maybe they pepper him a lot because he is going to be the guy just doing the short routes and intermediate routes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm leaning on sitting on Chris Olave. It really sucks. And then Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, maybe there'll be an outlet for these guys, but I really don't want to play them at all. So yeah, it's going to be all bad for the Saints without Derek Carr for these next 2 games. All your Saints, I would say, just almost blindly bench for the next 2 weeks. It's a tough matchup versus the Bucs, and next week versus the Broncos, it's even way tougher than what it is this week. So Saints, sucks to be you for the next 2 weeks. It really does. Next game that we got on the slate here should be one of the more fun games in the early Sunday games. We got the Commanders going up against the Ravens. They're usually the Commandos, but they're the ones catching people with their pants down now. It's a little crazy. Jaden Daniels, I'm going to say start him. Ravens have been a little bit iffy about defending the quarterback. Ravens have been a little bit iffy about defending everything except for the running backs. But we got Brian Thomas Jr. and we got Austin Eckler. Both guys can catch the ball. In the beginning of the year, they were like his most targeted pass catchers. And I feel like in a game like this, both of them going to be getting a lot of pass work. So I'd feel like I'd start both of them just because of that reason. They both get 5 or 6 receptions, which we've already seen them do that in a game before or more. And they're going to be both at least viable RB2s or flex options nonetheless. Now the wide receivers, I feel like the only one that we're starting is Scary Terry. And I feel like I don't want to sit Scary Terry anymore. Yeah, fire him up. Zach Ertz, I'm going to play him versus the Ravens because the Ravens are giving up some of the most points to tight ends out of any team out there. So yeah, Zach Ertz in this one, play him. It's crazy because every video, I don't even think I'm going to start 10 or 12 tight ends. But yeah, Zach Ertz, play him. Now over to the Ravens. You're starting Lamar Jackson. You're starting Derrick Henry. And good matchup for both guys here. I know that the Commandos versus, they look like the 85 Bears when they were playing the Browns, let's be honest. But their defense is good, middle of the road, maybe a little bit above average, whatever. But this is one of the more high-powered offenses in the league when they want to be. And when everything's clicking, Lamar, you start him. Derrick Henry, you start him. Zay Flowers, I'm going to start him, especially after what he did last week. But the one thing that makes me a little bit nervous is if it's a game where Derrick Henry can completely get off against that team and the Commandos, they've gone through little spurts of not being able to defend the running back like too well. So if Derrick Henry completely goes off like he did 2 weeks ago, might not be a good game for Zay Flowers. So that's one of the things that sucks for Zay Flowers. But I'm starting him. Rashad Bateman, I'm only starting him in deeper leagues, but he has been getting enough targets to where even in a deep league, deeper dynasty or whatever, he might be worth starting. But I'm still leaning on sitting him and Nelson Aguilar, not messing with him. Mark Andrews, I can't believe that if you go and look at their depth chart, they still have Mark Andrews as the number 1. I know for fantasy, we know who the number 1 is over there. So you better not be starting Mark Andrews. Don't even ask if you should start him anymore. You either drop him or you just leave him on your bench until he actually does something that's going to make him worth a start. The Mark Andrews that we've known in the past is dead. There's a totally new Mark Andrews who just blocks his ass off. Isaiah Likely, it's a tough matchup versus the Commandos, but I'm going to start him because there's so many shitty tight ends. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to say to start 10 this week. So I will start Isaiah Likely for that reason because everybody sucks in the tight end game. On to the next. We are moseying down the road and we've made it to the Cardinals going up against the Packers. Feel like most of these guys we're just blindly starting now. Like Kyler Murray, even in a single QB, I feel like he's too good to sit now. You got to play him. James Conner. Packers are already one of the better run defenses to deploy your running backs against. So, yes, start James Conner. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's already got to this level where, yeah, we're really not sitting him. Jair Alexander hasn't played the last 2 weeks. I don't know if he's going to be coming back this week, but if he comes back, I know he likes to shadow like the top guys more often than not. If he shadows Marvin Harrison Jr., that would be really tough. I still don't want to start Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch. Those guys are like way too fluky for me. And then Trey McBride, of course, man, we are starting Trey McBride. Packers, they're one of the teams that give up a little bit of booty to the tight end, and we're going to exploit that matchup. Let's go. Now to the home team side of things. Jordan Love, Mr. Unsittable. Yeah, we're starting him. That's for sure. Josh Jacobs, I feel like you always got to start him. He gets like way too much volume, and with all the bye weeks and all the injuries, like, yeah, he's got to be a start. Jaden Reed is an auto start for me here. Everybody else, I have a little bit of cause to pause. Christian Watson is probably not going to play this week. Devontavian Wicks, that was a cool 1 week experiment, but like he's going to be way too up and down. Romeo Doubs, it was only a 1 week suspension for him, but I get a little bit nervous about him. And maybe, being the squeaky wheel, maybe he gets a little bit of grease, but he just got suspended for 1 game because of like how he was crying about this whole situation. So I really don't like it at all. Tucker Kraft, I probably will start because the tight end landscape is just so bad that, yeah, I feel like I got to start him. And it's not like the Cardinals have been like shutting down tight ends tremendously or anything. We got a divisional matchup here in the AFC South. The Colts going over to Tennessee to play the Titans. Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. On a Wednesday morning, these guys are question marks. I would only start the QB if it's Flacco. I really don't want to start Richardson against anybody right now. So I'll play Flacco if he plays. If it's Richardson, I'm not playing him. The running backs. I really don't think JT is going to play. I really think he misses 1 or 2 more weeks. That being said, Trey Sermon's going to be the guy, and I really don't want to start him versus the Titans. It all depends on who you have, but I'm leaning on sitting Sermon versus the Titans. Michael Pittman Jr. also leaning on sitting versus the Titans. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is because he's going against L'Jarius Sneed. Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. If it's Joe Flacco, I would consider starting as flexes. And then Mo Alley. If you play Mo Alley, he's going to be Mo Alley small. So don't do it. Not this week, not this matchup specifically. Other side of the ball, the Tennessee Titans. It is very ugly on this side of the ball, I must tell you. And Will Levis sitting. Tony Pollard, I'll play, but it's a good matchup for him. It sucks that his quarterback sucks and that a lot of times teams stack the box against him, really hurts him, but I will start Tony Pollard. I'd even start Tajay Spears in certain situations, depending on who you have, more of a flex guy, because the Colts have just been so bad at defending the run. Calvin Ridley, I will play in this matchup. DeAndre Hopkins, fringe flex. He's a fringe flex guy. I'm leaning on sitting, but in certain situations, I potentially would start him, just depending on who your other options were. And Chig, we're not starting any tight ends for the Titans. It's bad. It's all bad over there for the Titans tight ends. All righty. We got the Texans going into Foxborough to go take on the Patriots. CJ Stroud, I'm going to play him. Joe Mixon, what a fucking clusterfuck. I don't think that he was at practice on Wednesday morning. That's when I'm recording this. We got to monitor this all week. It sucks. It really does, man. The whole running back situation sucked. And the Patriots, they're not really that good of a team to deploy your running back against. They're pretty stout against defending the run. So follow back this week on if Joe Mixon's playing Goomba Wale and Akers, it might be those guys again. It might be those guys again. And I feel like if I got to start like one of those two, it's going to be Goomba. I don't know if you guys got the news. I'm recording this pretty early on a Wednesday morning, and Nico Collins went on the IR. He's going to be out at least 4 weeks. And during those 4 weeks, Stephon Diggs, pretty much an auto start against the Patriots. I am a little bit nervous because I feel like they've gone against each other so much, they might know how to defend him like really, really well. And Patriots do a good job of taking away the number one option sometimes. So I'm a little bit nervous about Diggs, but I'm still starting him no matter what. And then Tank Dell. Everyone is super excited about Tank Dell. I'm not saying that he's not going to get an uptick in anything, but I am saying that the way that they use him, I bet the Patriots can take him out very easily, scheme him out. I'm not saying don't start him. I'd start him over like a lot of random flex people. But I'm just saying, I feel like the Patriots can really scheme him out of the game. And I feel like the guy who came in last week, he got an uptick in snap percentage, Xavier Hutchinson. He's not on a lot of people's radar right now because he really hasn't done shit. He was the number 4 on their team, sometimes maybe even the number 5 behind like Robert Woods, like it would seem at times. But now with no Nico, it is going to be those 3 who are getting the majority of the snaps because Houston runs a shitload of 3 wide receiver sets. And I know there's going to be, so Hutchinson, I would start him as like a dart throw flex, but I'm just saying he needs to be someone that you pick up no matter what. Whether you start him or not, go pick him up because if he does end up getting any kind of Nico role like in this, you're going to wish that you had him. And next week, he could be the biggest thing going on the waiver wire. So pick him up right now. And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, Nico's out. So that means Dalton Schultz to the moon, right? I really don't think so. I'm not saying he's not going to get an uptick in usage and anything. And one of the ways that you can actually move the ball on the Patriots is through the tight end. So this week specifically, I would say go ahead and start him, but I'm not expecting some huge game like out of him either. So we got to temper the expectations. And I'd say more often than not, Dalton Schultz is going to be a sit. But because I think I've only said to start like 4 or 3 tight ends so far, I feel like Dalton Schultz is one of those guys I would deploy because the Patriots, they're like exactly middle of the road at defending the tight end. So it's not a bad matchup. It's not a good one. Kind of just blah right in the middle. Now to the home team, the Patriots. Drake May, he's going to be starting. Brissett, he's been sucking. Their line's been sucking. Drake May, I assume in week 1 will suck. The Texans are middle of the road in giving up points to the tight end, unless you're Josh Allen, and then they completely shut you down. So Drake May in his opening debut, even in the super flex, I don't really want to start him. Ramondre Stevenson. Now this kind of sucks because the Texans have been really stout against the running backs. I feel like I'm not going to start some scrub over Ramondre, but Ramondre is more of like a flex guy for me. Ramondre is more of a flex guy for me for sure this week than any kind of like locked and loaded like RB2. I hate the matchup. Everybody should. Now to the wide receivers. I don't like Drake May this week, and in turn, I don't like any of his wide receivers. Whoever's lined up on Derek Stingley's side of the ball is going to be in for a really tough game. And now that Kendrick Bourne came back, that made it a little bit, muddied the waters a little bit for a guy like Demario Douglas, who, if Polk was getting taken out of the game, he was a guy who was getting schemed a lot. So I just don't like any one of these wide receivers this week. No Polk, no Bourne, no Douglas. Don't even mess with it. But I am very excited to see how they do with Drake May. I'm really excited to see how they do with Drake May and how the offense changes because Jacoby Brissett, the offense was broken, stale, any kind of adjective that we can put out there. It was bad. And Hunter Henry, you're not starting him. I know he may be the safety blanket, but Houston, they're giving up like the 5th least points to tight end. So it's just really a bad matchup all around for the Patriots. And that's why the Houston Texans, they were my number 1 streaming defense for the week. And for my streaming defenses, it's people under 50% rostered. So go check out those waiver wire ads because there's going to be some guys on there that you're going to want to pick up. They're on my channel. Now we have come to a game with the Browns going up against the Eagles. I don't think there's too many people that are going to be excited about playing anybody on the Brown side of things. Watson, not starting. Jerome Ford, maybe. Like, you got to be pretty desperate, I feel like. He's like a dart throw, like flex guy to me this week. That's about as high as I think of him. Eagles have been pretty decent at slowing down the running backs. And Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy, I just don't want them. Not with the Eagles coming off the bye and Watson just sucking as much as he did. When is Jameis Winston going to come in and start? Come on, bring him in there and start. Is there some clause in Watson's contract that he can't be replaced by Jameis Winston or they owe him more money or something? So, yeah, don't do it. Njoku, he's the only one that I would start if he plays. It's ugly all around for tight ends. That's the only reason. But yeah, the Browns, screw the Browns. Now the Eagles side of things. I'm recording this early on Wednesday, so you guys are going to need to make sure to come back throughout the week. Hurts, I'm starting him in a super flex, whether A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith play or not. In a single QB league, I really only want to start him if one of those guys comes back at least. And we should have more news on these guys very soon on if they're going to play. We will know by Friday, probably for sure, on both these guys if they're going to play. So just make sure you hit that subscribe and turn on the notifications so you guys can be here to get the specific information. And Saquon, he's an auto start every single week. Dallas Goedert, if A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith play, I'm not starting Dallas Goedert. If neither one of them play, I'm going to start him. And if one of them plays, then he's like a fringe start for me. But yeah, Dallas Goedert, wide range of outcomes. We made it all the way through the early Sunday matchups. Now we're making it to the second half of the games, and it starts off with the Chargers going to Denver to play those Broncos. The Broncos have been shutting everybody down. Herbert, single QB league, I'm sitting. Superflex, got to do what you got to do. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, I am not going to play either one of them versus the Broncos. Like maybe off of the bye, maybe J.K. Dobbins ends up randomly getting into the end zone, breaking off a couple big plays, but I really don't think he's going to get any type of like major workload that we're going to be mad that we sat on our bench. Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey. It's all ugly. It's horrible over here right now. The guy who I'd start would probably be Quentin Johnston, because at least when he gets a big play, it goes like for some touchdown or something, but he's really the only one that I would play in a flex capacity. I'm not playing Palmer. I really don't want to play McConkey. Chargers have just been bad. Okay. We can all agree. Chargers have been bad. And no, we're not firing up Will Disley or Hayden Hurst or anything like that. All bad over there. This game is going to be very ugly because now we're talking about the Broncos like side of things. Ooh, I'm not excited. I'm really not. Bo Nix, unless you're really desperate, like you're not starting him. Javonte, I would consider starting him. It'd probably be the only guy because Cortland Sutton, Reynolds, any of them, like I don't want any of them. Cortland Sutton specifically going to be going up against Asante Samuel Jr., I'm sure, for most of this game. Really don't want it. Greg Dulcich, he was like a healthy scratch like last week. So like anybody who was even thinking about him in Dynasty, just get rid of him. Adam Troutman, I guess, is like the guy for Dynasty, but I don't want any parts of this Denver Broncos offense. Maybe Javonte Williams, but that is about it. And that's because running backs, we got a bunch on bye and we got a bunch injured. So got to do what we got to do. But yeah, screw the Broncos. Next matchup, we're talking about Steelers going to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. Justin Fields, I would start him versus the Raiders because they've been so bad. Just like Najee, I would start him against the Raiders because they've been so bad. George Pickens, I'd start him versus the Raiders because they've been so bad. Even Pat Freiermuth, I've probably only said maybe 5 tight ends to start, maybe 6 I've said to start by this point. So I feel like I would start him. There's gotta be a little bit of desperation if you're starting Freiermuth, but I feel like everybody's very desperate at the tight end spot. On the Raiders side of things, everything is messed up right now. Gardner Minshew got pulled last game for Aiden O'Connell. So yeah, he's still listed as the starter, but I don't want to start him. What if he gets pulled again? Gardner Minshew has not been that good at all. Zamir White, who the hell knows? Like, dude, got hurt in practice last week and then he just doesn't play. And then it's Alexander Madison. Yuck. It's gross. Don't want to play him. Not versus the Steelers either. Devontae Adams, they already said he was missing potentially 2 weeks. This was the second week that he was going to potentially miss. So I would just assume, even though he has a Q there right now, that will be to an O very soon. Jacoby, don't want to start him. Trey Tucker, I do not want to start him. Brock Bowers, That's the only person who I'd really start over here. And I really don't like the matchup versus the Steelers. But one of the ways that you can move the ball in the Steelers is by feeding the tight end over the middle. If you have Brock Bowers, I'm not picking up some bum to start over him or anything, even in a toughish matchup. Now, the next game that we got on the slate here, we got an NFC divisional matchup between the Falcons and the Panthers. And the Falcons pretty much firing everybody up.
All right, fire them up.
You're firing up Kirk Cousins. You're firing up Bijan, even though he's been fluking us. Panthers are a good start for your running backs. Drake London and Darnell Mooney. I feel like you got to start both of these guys now. Like, I know that the Panthers do have tougher cornerbacks, but because teams are trying so hard to eliminate Bijan, it does make it to where they're just passing a lot over there. And they're passing so much that even Ray McLeod, like in like a dart throw flex type of capacity, I would start him. You know, depends on who your options are for sure. And Kyle Pitts, I think just after last week, and now going up against the Panthers, you don't defend the tight end well. I feel like I'm rolling him out there and not thinking twice about it. Now over to the Panthers side of things, and it is very ugly over on this side of things. We already know that. Andy Dalton, I probably will start against the Falcons. And super flex, like, of course, single QB, it depends on who you have, but I'm leaning on just starting him in general. Chuba, I don't know about that. The Falcons, they've been pretty stingy against the running backs. Falcons giving up around the 5th least points to running back. So I'm leaning on the side of sitting Chuba, but it always depends on who you have. Just remember that. Deontay Johnson, I will fire him up. He is going to get the AJ Terrell treatment, but I think he can do enough. Xavier Legette, I guess we got to find out about the injury reports for the week and stuff. I'd like the possibility of Legette being a thing, but I'm definitely not starting him this week coming off an injury, and dude just stays hurt, man. It's sad. And then, no, we're not starting Tommy Tremble or anybody like that either from over there. Lions going up against the Cowboys. Lions coming off a bye. Starting Jared Goff. Starting David Montgomery. I'm starting Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm starting Amon-Ra. I'm starting Jamison Williams. And even in a bad matchup, I'm going to start Sam Laporta coming off the bye week. Let's go. Now, the Cowboys are not as clear-cut of a starting to sit team as the Lions are. But Dak, I'm going to start him. CD, we're going to start him for sure. Jake Ferguson, almost leaning towards just like blindly starting him every single week because the tight end landscape is just so bad that he just always seems like he could finish as a top 3. But to the question mark guys, like Rico Dowdle, I really don't want to play him versus the Lions. Like, it's going to be a tough matchup. Same thing with Zeke. So I'm leaning on sitting these guys. If you have any Rico start sit questions, go ahead and throw it in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. Jalen Tolbert, I would start him in like a dart throw, like flex. Same with kind of Turpin. Like, just these guys are like dart throw flexes, though. If I'm going to play either one of those guys, it's going to be Tolbert. But we want to see more targets to go around. But running backs are going to get a couple targets. Jake's going to get some targets. CD's going to get a shitload of targets. And then, like, whatever's left will go to Tolbert and then to Turpin, you know. So might not be a lot in general. Sunday night football matchup between the Bengals and the Giants. I'm starting Joe Burrow. Zach Moss, I'm leaning on sitting Zach Moss and starting Chase Brown. Jamar Chase and Higgins, come on, man. We're playing both of these guys. They're almost locked and loaded starters every single week. So, yeah, fire them up. And then Eric All Jr., if you guys need a tight end, he's a guy that you could go pick up and potentially play. Not necessarily like the best matchup this week, but not the worst either. But just someone who's on the come up for sure. Now to the Giants. Boo. Giants suck, man. But Danny Pesos in a super flex, based on who you have, I'd potentially start him this week. The Bengals, they haven't been the best against defending anything over the last couple weeks. Singletary, we got to see more of his injury reports coming throughout this week. Let's say he plays. I don't want to play him. If he plays, Singletary that is, I don't want to start Tyrone Tracy. But if Singletary doesn't play, I would fire up Tracy.
All right, fire him up.
Malik Neighbors, if he plays, we're firing him up. Wan'Dale Robinson, I feel like we got to fire him up. If Malik Neighbors does not play, I'll fire up Darius Slayton, but that's about it. It's if Neighbors does not play. And then for the tight end, I told you in my tight end waiver wire video, if you saw it, if not, go watch all the waiver wire videos that I make them weekly to help you guys dominate waivers. Theo Johnson was my super duper sneaky tight end pickup of the week, and I stand on that. Cincinnati hasn't been the best against defending the tight end. There's a lot of trash out there at the tight end, and Theo Johnson's kind of just been going up and up as he's been getting more acclimated to the NFL. So he's the type of guy who seems like he's going to be in for a really nice second half of the season. And we've made it all the way to Monday Night Football. Let's get it. Josh Allen. Tomorrow is when we get the first practice injury reports for the Monday teams, and I'm a little bit nervous about Josh Allen. I bet you he's questionable after this first practice. We're going to have to monitor him all week, and we have to be paying attention because I don't think he's a guaranteed start this week. There might be something really wrong with him. They said he might have had a concussion, ankle. I'm hearing all these different things. So we got to wait and see what happens with the first day injury report, which will be tomorrow. James Cook. It's just a really tough matchup versus the Jets. So I'm leaning on like sitting him, but it all depends on your maps. Khalil Shakir. It's Wednesday. It's early. We still have no news about him, but I feel like I would start him because I don't think that he would be the guy who Sauce would be covering. I feel like Sauce would be covering Keon Coleman, who I definitely don't want to start in this game. And then Dalton Kincaid. I really don't want to start him versus the Jets. It's just a really bad matchup, and he's been so fluky and hit or miss that I just don't want to even bank on it. Final team here, those goddamn Jets.
The goddamn Jets.
Aaron Rodgers with the Q next to his name, another guy that we're going to need to monitor all week, all freaking week. Breece Hall, you got to play him. Bills have been horrible against the run. Garrett Wilson, we saw last week. It matters that it's a bad matchup for sure. Like Bills are a horrible matchup, but Garrett Wilson, we got to play him. Like Allen Lazard in a matchup like this where it's going to be kind of Garrett Wilson getting slowed down a little bit. Got to play Allen Lazard. Tyler Conklin, great matchup versus the Bills. You got to play him as well. All this is predicated on Aaron Rodgers actually being the starting QB for the week as well. All right, we made it. Whoo! Made it all the way through until the end. If you were here live, this was like a 4.5 hour, almost 5 hour live streams, hundreds of questions being answered, lots of bowls being smoked if you're a 420 person, lots of great advice. Make sure you guys are here, and you do that by hitting subscribe. You hit the like button, and we'll see you guys for every video that is coming out. Go check out the waiver wire videos. That's what's popping up right now. So do me and yourself a favor. Click one of those videos. Go ahead, do that right now.